Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About War Games, the podcast where we talk about war games and maybe Fortnite. It's the April Fool's episode, kind of. I don't know. We're recording this March 31st, and by the time that this is out, our April Fool's joke will be out on the site. So,
For those
gonna
who
be
want the
making
sequel.
Fortnite jokes. I'm flossing right now. You can't see it, but I am.
Can I just say that when I wrote that little bit, I had to look up so much stuff because I don't know anything about Fortnite.
You should have asked me. I didn't know we were actually going to go ahead and do anything, but I know enough Fortnite joke. I'm a little bit younger than you, and therefore I have friends who are younger than me that you probably wouldn't be friends with, and I hear this stuff from them, you know? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know these words. They're gonna chug jug with the victory royale or whatever. Like, oh,
there's llamas involved. I mean, I don't know what's
I
happening.
know about the llamas. The llamas are news to me. I played 2 matches of Fortnite ever years ago before it became a big thing because someone was like, check this out, and I was like, I don't like it very much. And I don't know, it's just a game where you had guns then, and now it's like I guess still the same thing.
Man, there's a lot going on. But anyways, we're talking about something a lot more unpleasant than that.
I'm Jack, and this is Joe, by the way.
Hi. Yes, hi, everybody. In case you stumbled into this corner of the internet and just started listening to us.
Going off to a great start here. This is a Wargaming podcast. Hello.
Yeah, which is, yes, we talk about war games and Fortnite now. That's what we do. And serious topics about the community. That's what we hit we're the 60 minutes of Wargaming podcast.
The 60 minutes of Wargaming podcast. I love that.
Does that date me?
Yeah. No, I know what 60 minutes is. Yeah, I mean, between last week's talk about colonialism and this week's talk about, well, you're going to introduce that in a second. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks. Let's go, Joe. Let's go.
Yes. So as you've seen by clicking on the title of this, we decided to go with the death of the author, or perhaps in French, depending on what Jack is feeling spicy or not.
La mort d'auteur.
And we're using that in the loose modern sense. So what's the death of the author? It's the basic idea, if we're going to be trolling Wikipedia afterwards, check me on this. It's that you should or could separate the author from a piece of work. So looking to the author in their life to inform how you should interpret a piece of work is not the way you should do it, according to this idea, the death of the author. You should be separating the two conceptually and looking at the piece as a standalone bit of art or writing or whatever, and the author is their own thing.
Yeah.
Now, in the more modern, easy to understand sense, it's the idea of if we can separate the author and their ideas, their politics, their worldviews from the products they're producing. And we're using it in the much more inflammatory modern sense. Because we're looking at war games and the people who make them and wondering if we could or should be ignoring the individuals and the people who are designing these games and looking at the products themselves and what they're putting forth. So this came up initially to me because, like a year and a bit ago, maybe just a year ago now, I got the chance to review the digital version of Lock and Load Tactical. Lock and Load Tactical Digital. Now, this is by Lock and Load, a wargaming and book publishing company. And the digital version, who did you digital version? Yeah, it's just one time that my team decides, like, I'm not going to load anything.
Let me see.
Okay. Developer publisher was Lock and Load Publishing, so they did it all in house, I guess. And I loved it. It's honestly one of my favorite tactical level war games. I like the way they handle command and control, I like the way they handle morale. I like how the system is flexible enough that you can do pretty much anything modern World War II onwards, and it still functions. I had as much fun playing the Vietnam module as I did the World War II module and there's a whole bunch of other modules, but I haven't played them, and that's because during the summer, during the troubles of 2020 in the United States.
Have you all heard, have any listeners here heard of a Black Lives Matter movement? It's probably important context in this case.
It was a big thing in the summer of 2020. And during that time, a lot of companies, a lot of entities were publicly stating their support for the ideals of the movement, that Black Lives Matter, and some others were not. And this became a bit of a sticking point in the wider wargaming world. Wargames are a very small, insular community generally. I mean, we're trying to change that. People all over the place. Maybe that's being too on the nose. But anyways,
I I
there's
don't think
issues.
that's unfair necessarily,
Mm,
especially from the tabletop angle. Digital is kind of a different story.
yeah,
To the point, we could probably talk about how those are almost two different communities entirely. But
yeah. There's definitely differences, and this is most of what I'm saying today is based around tabletop wargaming. Although we're going to extrapolate a bit because I mean this is me playing a PC game. But if I go back here, um, a lot of different companies were quiet on the wargaming front because they're war games. They're small. They have a very targeted audience, and I guess some people thought they don't need to or shouldn't be getting involved. When people directly questioned certain wargaming companies and asked for statements, some stepped up and, in my opinion, did the right thing. You have GMT, uh, Multiman Publishing eventually, and a few others off the top of my head that are like the regular group came forward and expressed support for Black Lives Matter and the ideas that people shouldn't be unfairly targeted because of their race and all that fun stuff. And that was fine. Seeing the backlash they got on Twitter, the go get woke, go broke bullshit that people were sprouting because how dare someone say something as controversial as Black Lives Matter?
perhaps racism is bad. How dare you, sir?
Yeah,
My granddad was a racist. Would you say that about him?
yes,
This is the kind of thing that I'm seeing actually, like literally.
yeah. So I was happy that GMT, MMP, these companies whose products I enjoy and who I write about, when I was back writing for Wargamer more regularly, I was covering these games all the time, that they stood up and did the right thing. And unfortunately, David Heath, the owner of Lock and Load Publishing, uh, came out in the exact opposite and tweeted on June 13th, 2020 at 5:33 p.m. because I'm not gonna unfairly pillar anybody that they're impressed with this very racist, awful video about a very pro-police, anti-protest video.
It's not good, folks. Yeah, I
Not,
saw it. It's not good.
it's not great.
It's pretty bad
Hmm.
to be honest. Not just from a racism angle, but also from perhaps don't. It's like a don't question the jackbooted police officers who are doing this.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
angle the video gives.
Ooh, it is tough to watch. Let me tell you.
It's painful. It is because like it's not even entirely subtle. Like if you're watching that video, and again, you can go find this tweet. Lock and Load Publishing's Twitter. You can go find it and you can watch this video. Hell, we can even link it in the bottom here so you can
Oh, I was
see I'm
planning to.
not
Yeah,
bullshitting. I'm not making this stuff up.
that would
There's a
be an incredible thing if you were making this up.
I know my lifelong career of starting this podcast or whatever with you just to inevitably come down and lock and load for something. No, it bugs me. There's a part in the video where it zooms in on a African American police officer and says, "We know not all of you are bad." Like, oh boy, like
Yeah.
that is they're not being subtle. But anyways, the tweet is in support of that video and support of for another CEO who is pro police, obviously. And there are two comments on this. One saying this feels a bit tone deaf, and the other saying this is racist, and your support of it makes you racist, and that's bad. And then someone, of course, hitting back, and that was it. No one seemed to notice or care that a very prominent company in the wargaming space took that stance. But I noticed, I cared.
Yeah. I suppose the lack of response in this regard is kind of like just a circumstance of the community because there's a lot of people who play tabletop wargaming that won't have Twitter because they're, um, to put it charitably, they are of an older generation, a better generation. I've heard that you can call someone of a certain age or better, like 55 or better. There's a lot of these folks who play these war games, and they don't
Yeah,
have Twitter, and they're not seeing this.
it's a smaller
Um,
community. You're right. It's a smaller
yeah,
window, and Lock and Load. It's not the biggest company out there. It's decent for what it does for wargaming. And
but we are of the new generation, and we saw it.
yeah, and that bothered me. That really bugged me. That was the stance they decided to take, and that they seem to fly under the radar of the wargaming community as a whole. Because mean, people were coming to the woodwork to say like, GMT, are you going to say something? And they didn't for a while, and then they did because that was the right thing to do. I mean, hell, Wargamer that we wrote for, they did eventually say a nice pro Black Lives Matter thing, right? It wasn't. It's not a hard thing to do, right?
No, it is not.
So yeah, that put a sour taste in my mouth because I had just like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks previous finished my review of Lock and Load Tactical Digital and liked it
Yeah, I
and
had
thought,
also just bought it like a couple weeks before, and I was like, "Ah, come on!" Like I'm not buying any more of the modules or anything for it.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, I would have thought of myself as someone who would separate games from people and try and look at games from their own individual, especially games, because games are a very um multiple people work on games, right? They're
Hmm.
collaborative projects. It's more difficult when you have an individual who is producing something and then having their views not align with yours, and you can say, well, okay, that's fine because your views not align with mine. I won't be supporting your products. But if something like games, video games especially, but also board games because they're and board war games because there's a lot going into the production of these. There are a lot of people involved and a lot of people who put their work, their time, their effort, their blood, sweat, and tears into this. And for this guy to unilaterally go on Twitter and say, "Well, I am standing by the aggressive actions of the police," is that fair to the workers underneath them? But then the other part of me is thinking, well, unfortunately, that's the lot they're cast with, right? This is they're working with or making these business relationships with these companies, and it's up to them to, if this does not align with their beliefs, separate themselves from that, take their work elsewhere. As it's something that people can do, something people can try to do. I know what little things I do in my life is basically choosing whether or not I want to write about something. I know, big
Hmm.
loss for me, right? It's not like I'm suffering for it, but so it's easier for me to, air quote, stand by my beliefs than someone else whose income is more dependent on what's happening around them.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I can't fault someone for still working at this company, but at the
no,
same time,
exactly. But
like,
that's the problem is that I don't like the idea that because of this, I don't feel comfortable supporting this company anymore. Therefore, everything that designers, artists, everyone who's working on these things, their work is no longer something I get to deal with because of this overarching issue I have with this entity
yeah,
and the individual of David Heath. I'm sorry, I have
yeah.
a problem with how you view these things.
At the end of the day, like I don't want to pay money to potentially benefit this line of thinking,
Hmm.
because not only do I not want to give to some money to someone whose views I find reprehensible, but I don't know if he's going to take that money and like use it to support things that I'm against at this point.
Right, and that's the thing, and that's why it's hard to separate, and that's why I wanted to have this discussion because I am finding myself not playing this game I liked because of this relationship. And I mean, it's not like I'm suffering. There's other games to play that I also enjoy, but I'm not playing this one that I did enjoy because of this. So right, that's where I'm at with this idea.
Yeah, and it's this conversation, I suppose, comes at an interesting time because there's a very large discussion right now in the internet and the Twitterverse specifically around the idea of like canceling authors or whatever for
Yeah,
yeah,
and that
and
bugs me too. 'Cause I don't
it's
want.
it's very adjacent to this.
I don't want to think we're like, all right, listeners, let's cancel Lock and Load. Go get. I'm like, no,
No,
don't be like that. That's
I
not what
don't.
any of this is.
It, not that we have a big fan base or anything, but if I see any of you like saying anything to this guy, like, yeah, Joe and Jack tore you up, I'm gonna block you.
Oh
I,
yes,
I don't want to. I don't want to see that.
my famed wit pillorying. No, I mean, but
Oh,
I'm voting with my wallet, right? I'm not buying more Lock and Load games,
right.
and that's how this works. Uh, and that's all this is, right? This is the invisible hand of the free market. Clearly, people don't care enough about what he said. They're still doing just fine. I personally am not making those purchases anymore. But I guess that's part of my issues because I was dusting off. I have this game from them, little tiny thing called where'd you go? Of course I lose everything. This is Bloody Mohawk French Indian Wars, and it's a little like print on demand game they put out a long time ago, a few years ago, anyways, and by Bill Molyneux. And that is a game he designed to basically take to historical sites and sell to families so that they're like, parents can play with kids. Simple, easy entry level uh, French Indian War battles.
Oh yeah, I know the kind of stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, and
Like
it's a cute little game.
you go to any like historical place in the U.S. like where a battle was fought or whatever, you find like 20 of these.
And I like it. It's got 12 little or 10 maps in it. It's got Battle of the Plains of Abraham. It's got some other stuff from Canadian history and American history. It's a cool little game. It's cute. It needs a bit of editing work in the rules, but I mean, I might sit down and do a full review of it. But like, that dude has nothing to do with this. Bill Molyneux has nothing to do with what David Heath said. His game is still published through Lock and Load, but that dude, he's on BGG answering questions about his game, telling people to have a good time, not worry about, like, it's just seems like a pleasant guy. And it bugs me that like I feel I can't support his work because his work is published through Lock and Load. So like, am I crazy here? Is this am I going too far? Am I not separating? Is this the death of the author issue that I should be, separating the work from the individuals, or am I on brand here by not paying money to the entity, the publisher that is Lock and Load, even though it's going to hurt my ability to support and or get access to the work of
Sure.
individuals I like?
I think my line of thinking on this is that I don't want to pay money to support things like this, but at the same time, you have to like it's a cost analysis. Look at the thing. Like if you're going to, I don't know, a Target. I don't know why I say a Target, but if you're gonna like go buy a board game at a Target or whatever, and you see like, oh yes, there's this cool board game, and then before you get to the checkout, you hear of a tweet that like some mid-level artist that made the board game like was like really shitty online, like, you know, because it's one cog in the machine, like that might not stop you. But if it's like the CEO of the company that made it, that's another story.
Yeah,
And
you're
in this
right.
case, it is the CEO of the company that said it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be thought of how that company is and the ethos of that company if that is what the CEO is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's some like mid-level artist or whatever, it's like, oh, that's cringe. But that this is a very personal thing for this will be a very personal decision for a lot of people, is like the fact is we have the internet now and we can see what people think about things that are important. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just like oh, I'm a fan of the other sports team. It's like, no, this person doesn't think trans people are people or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or this person thinks that like the violence against black communities by policing over the course of last summer was justified. And it's like, oh boy, you know, it's it's a very nuanced thing, and it has to come down to a personal belief on a lot of things. I don't. I have to choose my words carefully here because I have a lot of opinions about this, but it is a matter of personal opinion, and I don't really view other people who choose to buy or not buy these games with any kind of difference, unless it's like, I don't know, unless you're like buying games from John McHitler or something and he's like using it to fund the American Nazi Party. But at the same time, if I see someone comes out, they're like, "Hello, I'm CEO of game company, and I hate black people, I hate gay people, I hate trans people." I'm like, I'm not buying that game, no matter how good it is. Like, I will not buy that game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of like, if I've already bought the game, like, it'll leave a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm a lot more likely to play the game. But I'm definitely not going to put money in the pockets of the people who like have these beliefs. I won't do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right about it's the authority that also makes this more difficult. Because, yeah, like, I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy of films, and the books too, don't at me. But if I found out that, like, oh, some mid level person there was a scumbag or something, I'd be like, well, that's terrible. I'm still going to enjoy the movies. If it's like Peter Jackson kills kittens every night, I'd be like, oh, I might be a little bit less inclined to keep watching those films, right? Like, the hierarchy matters.
I got bad news for you about The Hobbit, bud.
Oh God, right? Yeah. Well, I don't like The Hobbit, so there you go.
Oh well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, look at that. I
Although
can
that wasn't.
compartmentalize anything I want in my mind so that I don't feel bad.
Although to be fair to Peter Jackson, that wasn't Peter Jackson's fault. That was the New Zealand not authors, excuse me. That
Go
was the
watch
New
that.
Zealand Actors Association.
Yeah, the
Lindsay
Lindsay
Ellis, I
Ellis
think.
Phyllis. Yeah,
Yeah,
go watch
the
that.
Lindsay Ellis video. Yeah, go watch Lindsay Ellis.
Hmm. But like, I mean, this got me thinking about other games and other people in the community, and I go, we do have a very, especially board gaming, but video gaming too. There's like people in the community, visible people in the community that are tied to these things, and what we see or hear of their lives is going to be informing how we understand the work they do, right? And
Oh yeah.
that makes it more difficult. So like, I don't know if I'm ever going to buy another Lock and Load game, but I don't think I'm going to feel bad playing Bloody Mohawk by Bill Molyneux, who happens to be published by Lock and Load.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've got a magazine subscription to a little Wargame press, and they also have some deals with Lock and Load to like get their magazine out cheaper, and the magazine's great. So like, but I mean, the writers of the magazine aren't in step with this or whatever. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah. I suppose a good conversation to have at the same time is the concept of no ethical consumption under capitalism. Basically, the concept is at the end of the day, if you are participating in society, you're going to end up supporting bad people doing bad things.
Yes,
And
I mean, that is true, right?
yeah, this is an undisputable fact.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that the average person can affect too much on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But in a community like Wargaming, where there are a fair amount of choices, but there aren't that many people, that actually, like, you have a lot of power as someone who's purchasing things to say, yes, I like this concept, I like this game or whatever, or yes, I like this developer, as opposed to not buying something and saying, I hate this developer or whatever, I don't like this developer.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, it's a complicated subject, I think is what we're trying to say here.
Yes, not something I could have pondered out on my own. I don't think that's why I thought I'd bring it up and we could talk about it, because it's just, it does get to the very root of like, yeah, we all pump gas, we all have cell phones, we all participate in a world in which that we, and by we I mean we living in the Western Hemisphere, or the North America, are living a better lives than people elsewhere because of the wiles of history and what our predecessors did. That's just part of reality.
Yeah.
You can't change that.
I mean, even by just paying taxes, you're enabling a lot of bad things to happen. There's oops, I'm gonna put the anarchist back in the closet over there, pardon me.
There'll be time for him later when we play anarchist games.
Well, but like, that's the whole thing of it, is that like, there's nuance to this thing. There's no way to go about doing things without spending money and without supporting bad people. But because this is a hobby with choices, you do have a choice to not do that.
Yes. And I think that's a good way to think about it.
I am nervous because there is a big screw on my desk, and I don't know what it was attached to. And I have just seen this, and I'm holding it in my hand right now, and it looks like it's attached to something that's probably very structurally important, but I don't know what it goes to. I'm going to put that down for now and think about that later.
Yeah, just back up your files to the cloud today in case your entire computer goes crashing down.
I don't think it's a computer screw. I think it's something holding up my computer or me. So if you hear a yell at some point, that's me falling over.
We'll be sure to include it in the final cut of this.
I'm going to be editing it. If my computer does not go down with me, I will include the yell. If
the
it
death
happens.
of the podcast host.
La mort du podcaster.
But right, and when we talk about it in this fashion, because this is a discussion that's been coming up a lot today, not related to Wargaming specifically, but to other facets of life, like, can you still read Harry Potter even though J.K. Rowling's J.K. Rowling?
I have opinions about that one. Got a little jingle for this segment, actually.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's see. How can I justify this?
Are you in the pro Harry Potter camp? I want to establish these lines right now.
I've never been a Harry Potter fan. I mean, I read the books when I was a kid, but I don't care about the whole Harry Potter mania. I steered more towards Lord of the Rings than Harry Potter. There you go. I'm that kind of kid. I'm that snobbish one.
You nerd.
Yeah, I know. The turbo nerd over here with my Silmarillion copy.
I think I read Lord of the Rings too early, because when I read it, I was like, oh, this is just brutal. Like, I was like, I couldn't, and I haven't given it another chance since then. And I know I really should, but I spent so much time doing other things now other than reading, like some kind of horrible, like, troglodyte. I don't know, not troglodyte, uncultured asshole.
I like the word troglodyte. I don't think people use the word.
It's a good word. It's a good word, but it doesn't apply there. But I was a Harry Potter fan. I will say that. But it is an interesting thing to look at. First of all, there is a game coming out next year. This year or next year, under the Harry Potter label, which is under J.K. Rowling, who is the topic of this discussion. And
shift focus. Now we're literally
it's coming out, and there's a lot of talk about this one. for a lot of reasons. And for those of you who haven't been keeping score on this game here,
Mm,
Joanne K. Rowling. I don't know what the K stands for. Knowles, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
JKR, good old JKR. Once upon a time, you may have heard of this series. She wrote Harry Potter, and that is a wildly successful book series. She's made like a good bajillion dollars out of it. And recently, she has taken to being wildly transphobic online, and like very much so supporting anti-trans movements and whatnot in the UK. And I mean, using her position to basically leverage power against trans people because of a bunch of dumb reasons that I can't really go into. There's a bunch of YouTubers that have done a better job of explaining this whole thing. I think Contrapoints and Lindsay Ellis have both talked about this. If you want to know why exactly this is a bad thing, you can go watch their videos on this. But basically, she's extremely transphobic, and this game is coming out next year, and the discussion is, like, oh, do we play this game? Is it okay to play this game? And it's like, this is the one thing where I'm like, no, you shouldn't play this game because it's the money is going into her pocket and is going to help her promote her shitty beliefs. Like, you should not play this game. And there's further stuff going on with, like, apparently one of the developers was like involved with like some Nazi shit or something on the side.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't have the source on that one, but there are like other weird things going on with like the development. um
See, that's
but
the
yeah,
tragic part.
Jake Carr sucks. It's my stance.
Because like, how many people work on a video game and of one of that
Yeah.
caliber? There's like hundreds of people who spent the last 4 years of their lives working on this. Most of whom, I guess, if they started when they started the game 4 years ago, she hadn't gone nuts, overboard, crazy, right?
Yep.
And now they're threatened with the last 4 years of their professional lives being thrown in the gutter because this person who's tangentially related to the work they're doing went nuts.
Well, that's the thing is that in this specific case, they're a big enough gaming company. Those people already got paid.
Mm,
Their success does not hinge on this. They might like not get some bonuses if no one buys the game, but they've already been paid. This is like a professional salary business. This is not a one man board gaming operation.
mm-hmm. You're
And
right.
so that's like it's like and so that's another layer of this. In wargaming, you have these small companies where, like, for example, the Bloody Mohawk game.
Yeah.
If you don't buy that, like, that could actually impact that dude that made that.
Mm-hmm.
And while it would put money in the pocket of Lock and Load CEO, it'll probably also go to this guy as well because he built this game. That is not so the case with big AAA releases like the Harry Potter game I don't remember the name of that's coming out soon. Because those people already got paid. They're like salaried professionals that work on big teams with like hundreds of people. Like, they already all got paid. They're not going to get bonuses if no one buys it, but such is the cost of making a game for a transphobe. Not that they knew that she was at the time.
Yeah, I
So
guess that's because I've heard people like when that was announced and people were like, "Well, I'm not going to buy this because of what J.K. Rowling's doing." Uh, they were saying, well, like we're not her, we're different, but yeah, the programmer, the artist, they already got their money. You're right,
yeah, like,
and I
I
guess
mean,
that's something
at the end of
I'm
the
okay with.
day, they get to put the game on their resume. They get to work at another company after. Like,
Hmm.
I'm sure the game will be like
It'll still be
built fine or
successful.
whatever. It'll still be successful because there are going to be so many people who hate trans people that just buy it out of spite. And this is not. I'm not kidding. That's just going to be what happens because especially in the UK, there's this whole culture of them circling the wagons around transphobes because they're protecting women or children from the big scary from Big Tran. Capital B, capital T. They're protecting them from Big Tran. Doing whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they think that like trans people are doing other than like needing to use a restroom.
I'm sure
But
it's gonna sell well because it's Harry Potter, and
it's gonna sell because it's Harry Potter.
these
But
massive things just sell regardless of the politics around them because that's just how they work, right?
yeah, but that's the thing is that at the end of the day, you cannot separate JKR from this because even built into the game, specifically, this is what I want to talk about. Built into the world of Harry Potter are harmful things that come from JKR's thinking, such as the goblins in this who run the banks are obvious Jewish analogs. They are tiny little creatures that have hooked noses, the freaking like long gnarled hands with the curled nails and everything, and they run the banks. And it is a literal Jewish stereotype, but
Yeah,
they
that's
are
pretty
just
rough.
a fantasy race of things. Yeah, not to mention the very weird views on slavery with like the house elves and whatnot. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, and I would say overall not great. When I have kids, I'm probably not gonna like Harry Potter's not going to be the first book series I like you know have them read. I'll be like, if when they want to read Harry Potter, I'll be like, okay, here is why. Yeah, here's your first lesson in sometimes things have bad things in them, and you need to understand. You need to understand that.
Yeah,
Um,
okay, because here's
yeah.
the one that gets me is my
Hmm.
good friend H.P. Lovecraft,
Your good
my
friend,
good buddy
your good friend
with
with the funny cat name.
yeah,
It is not funny.
my good friend
Google
with
that if Google that if you want to know. We're not saying it.
no, we're not, and that's the point. Right? That's what we're gonna get into here. Is I read those stories when I was younger and had no idea what the hell H.P. Lovecraft was getting up to, and now I know. Does that mean I don't like the Mountains of Madness or the Shadow over Innsmouth or all these like great horror stories that really like sparked my imagination when I was growing up? I still like those stories, but I also have the wherewithal now to understand that if I'm reading Dreams of the Witch House, the Black Man is a little bit more on the nose than I'd like, and Brown Jenkins the Rat. I mean, they're pretty telling. And of course, if you go looking into it, he had endless letters of talking about Jewish conspiracies and all this horrendously racist anti-Semitic shit that he was into.
Yeah, famously, he was so racist that other racists were like, "Dude, you need to tone it down a little bit."
Yeah, and that's bad. But I mean, hell, we used to play Arkham Horror, the board game,
Hmm.
once a week with our best friends for like 7 years there. I mean, it's the lore, the mythos, the universe is just part of my fantasy fun times thing. Now, that's I feel like it's a little bit different, and convenient for me, it's a little bit different, right? That
Yeah.
dude's long dead, and all this stuff is out of circulation. His estate's not getting anything relating to this at all. And if you look at the
Yeah.
people who are making stuff like Arkham Horror or these modern things, they are directly countering that racist bullshit that he was perpetrating by
Or
sticking people of
most
color.
of the time. I don't want to say 100% on
Okay,
this.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
thinking particularly of Arkham Horror, the board game,
Hmm.
where they're like, no, here is a proper diverse cast of characters, in all walks of life in 1920s, the world, all fighting monsters and Lovecraftian horrors and whatnot. And I guess you lose a little bit of the Lovecraft because you're fighting them with machine guns and whatnot, and also
Hmm.
going insane. But
Oh,
but
uh,
I mean, like that is people taking this thing, which at its core is a fascinating, interesting idea, not agreeing with everything the author's doing, and then changing it. And I can buy into that or not, and I do because I haven't. I mean, maybe there is some shit, but I haven't encountered anything in.
it's certainly less bad than H.P. Lovecraft himself.
Yeah, and it's not a low bar or a high bar to get under.
Oh yeah, you just gotta just don't openly say slurs and you're good.
Yes, and yeah, that's one of the problems, right? Like I'm looking at his list of his letters here, and dear God, this man was nuts. But he made some cool sci-fi stuff, and also because we're talking about war games, Devil
Hmm.
Pig Games, Shadows over Normandy, World War II pulp fiction stuff with Cthulhu monsters and whatnot. Cool game.
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, it's a neat one. The hero system is kind of fun. We have in this house we have the Heroes of Blackreach. It's like a Warhammer 40k version. My wife doesn't
Mm.
like it. We're selling it. I think it's a cool system. Not my favorite. Check it out. War games.
Or
But yeah,
games.
I mean, so like, is it bad that I feel better reading H.P. Lovecraft stuff, knowing that I'm not going to be giving H.P. Lovecraft any money, and that I can sit here and say I disagree with how you view this stuff, but I can accept that the Dunwich Horror is a great short story. Like it's tricky. The whole thing is tricky, I suppose. That's my problem with it all. But like I'm totally cool with not ever supporting the Harry Potter again. But then again, I wasn't a big Harry
Yeah.
Potter guy, so like it's not a big loss for me to say, well, okay, I won't buy a Harry Potter video game. Like I just don't
You're
care.
doing so much. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'm doing my bit, doing my part. But that's the point, right? Like it's I'm having trouble with this because it's easy for me to not take work if I don't believe in it, because the writing work I do is a side job. This podcast is all the side stuff I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna die if I don't take this next piece if I don't agree with the person, because I have
Yeah,
another
I
job
mean
for that.
we're both freelancers. We get most of our income somewhere else.
Yes, and I'm not dying by having to give up my Harry Potter collection and setting fire to all of my books or anything, because again, I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I don't care. And most of the people I do read and do like, they're all dead. So, like, okay, no one's getting money if I'm reading, digitized online copies of Howard's Conan stories.
So if you want Joe to read your stuff, the best way to do so is to die.
Yep, and it's guilt free. Read your stuff, no problem. No, don't die, please. Because yeah, like, okay, there's that one, Conan. I love the Conan stories. They're great fun. I'm not a big fan of the movie. We can talk about this at length if you want. I will talk about the Conan.
We
movie.
can talk about Conan the movie. Yeah, sure. We'll swing back around to this, I guess, after we're done talking about everything. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. I've only watched the movie once.
Okay, yeah. As someone who likes the original short stories by Howard, there's a lot that the movie misses, I think. But also, I mean, there's some cringy stories that are really bad. Like Conan goes to analogous sub-Saharan Africa, and it's the most racist shit I've read in a long time. It's bad.
Uh-oh.
Not cool. But then
Racism is
again,
bad.
I'm not paying Howard anything. I'm not invested in this individual. So like, okay, I can just ignore these works that I don't agree with.
Well, I guess that's the thing. There's games based on this universe now.
There are, yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea like how they have dealt with any of this stuff, or if they just don't go there. They just don't go there, I think.
So that's a big problem. Here's my problem with the game, because there's a Conan board game.
Okay, I was thinking the digital games. I didn't even think of the board game.
Oh, the board game is rough. I'm gonna pull up at the BGG here. The Conan BGG. What's it called? It's not Age of Conan. It's just called Conan 2016. And all right, so a lot of here's the Conan history lesson, right? Weird Tales and all these other magazines that Conan was in back in the 20s and 30s and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The covers have really like explicitly sexualized, ridiculous covers of like women in distress and big strong men coming to get them. As part of the allure of these penny rags that these
as you do. That's just what they were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when this game came out, they said we're gonna keep that aesthetic and we're not gonna tone it down, because that was the aesthetic. So
I was hoping you were gonna say like we've subverted it and there's just some twink laying there, the biggest woman you've ever seen coming to save him.
Nope. They went.
That's kind of disappointing.
A hole into it. So the art of the game has a lot of those like very hard to believe women structures and whatever, like they're very much leaning heavily into that.
Where are their organs kind of thing.
Yeah, but and here's my problem, because there's one thing I hate in life, and it's half-assing everything.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say no, never mind. It's the one thing you love in life, right? That's the Conan line. Never mind, go on.
What is good in life? Yeah. Right, I hate half-assing, and I hate moral half-assing more than anything else. They went and they said, no, we're going to do this art style. We're going to bring these women back like they were in the 20s and 30s on these covers, because we know they're not okay to do that now, but we're going to do that because that's what was on the original. And then they had the audacity to include Conan's version of Asian people.
Uh-oh.
Which in the books are horrifically racist characters.
Uh-oh.
And they just kind of ignored that shit and made them like, they're like orcs or something. No, no, motherfucker. You don't get to pick and choose. If you're going to do this, you do it. If you're going to say, no, we're sticking with the aesthetics of the 20s, and damn your sexism claims because we're going to make these women look, fake, then fucker go all out and put the racist-ass characters in there too, because that's the stance you chose. You don't get to do one and not the other because you think no one's going to fucking notice. I noticed.
Jesus.
And yeah, that bothered me. That pissed me off. Because not only are they saying, fuck you with this sexism thing, because no, it's not cool to portray women like that, but they're saying, oh, we're going to do it anyways because it's the way it was. But then they didn't have the balls to go and do that with the racism thing, because Conan is racist as shit. They all are. It's a freaking adventure story written by a Southern American in the 20s. What do you think it's going to be? It's racist. Sorry. So yeah, that bothered me, because they didn't fix anything. They didn't modernize anything, because they could have just made it not horrendously sexist, but they didn't do that. And then they went and they half-assed the racism because they were scared of that. That's not cool.
Something from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like they did much to cloak the fact that they were originally the Asian analog either.
Oh no, because they use the same name. Literally, because they
I
have
see.
they're the mythical whatevers from the Far East, and
That were just Asian people in the first place,
I
and now
mean,
they're
yeah, the story they
orcs.
come in, they're literally just opioided out of their minds the entire time Conan's
Oh,
there. Like it's bad, guys. It's
oh
bad.
dear.
And I hate this because I like Conan stories, but I can say that this is bad. That was a bad one because it was racist as hell. Anything in Africa land is racist as hell. It's not cool.
Oh dear.
But yeah, sorry, that was my little tirade because this game pissed me off by doing that. Like, how dare you say, "Oh, we're going to stand up for this ancient art, from the 20s, and have these overly sexified women," and then cringe at the thought of going racist? Like, no, you got in that boat, now paddle. Anyways, that was my Conan tirade. Don't buy the Conan game.
The digital ones are still up in the air, though. I haven't played
I
those.
haven't played the digital ones.
I don't know I don't know how those have adapted anything.
I feel like the MMO one lets you make whatever kind of character you want, right? So
The MMO one also apparently has some of the best genital physics of any game recently,
I mean, you
because you
gotta
get
have
to model
genital
that.
physics.
I mean, there's not a lot of games that have it these days, but apparently, from what I've seen, people are just bouncing merrily along. And I've heard about this from my friends who played it. I'm like, that's great for you guys. I love this for you.
Yeah.
Um,
If I'm gonna be hunting in Conan, I want to scare the elk away with the slap, slap, slap of my as I approach, because that's what Conan's all about.
Okay. Well, that's our podcast. Talk to you all later. Shit.
I mean,
God damn it. I was not expecting that from you. Okay, cool. Anyway, we're talking about Death of the Author here on
yeah, we've
Design
kind
of a
of veered
Mobile.
away from war games a bit. But I mean,
Taking a big sip of my cran blackberry juice. Just fun to drink on a Thursday, on a Wednesday. I don't even have my days right anymore. I'm throwing the fuck off. Jesus. Okay. Where were we? Racism is bad. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the general conclusion to take from this episode is that I remember what Lock and Load did in summer of 2020, and now you all know what Lock and Load did summer 2020. Also, B, don't do anything about that. Vote with your wallets.
Yeah.
And C, that we all have to look inwards at ourselves, our beliefs, our morals, and judge on a case by case basis, because that's what reality is, unfortunately, about how we want to support or not support these entities and these people who are making things for our consumption. And that's difficult. And I guess that's the whole point of this, is that this is hard and I don't like it.
Yeah, it sucks being an adult having to make adult decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
However, in the case of things like the new Harry Potter game, it is an easy choice to make, and I am gleefully doing so.
Yeah, and that's something else too. You have to weigh each of these, right? Because it's a lot harder to say I'm not going to buy Bloody Mohawk sequel because they're published by Lock and Load, but I like the game. I like Bill Molyneux's, what I've seen of him online. I don't know. He could be a bad guy in the shadows. I don't know, but it's easier to say I'm not going to buy any more Harry Potter crap because I just never cared about it and I don't want to support her. So yeah, I don't know if that's a fulfilling episode. I hope everyone enjoyed this, or at least got to thinking about stuff.
Yeah, in wargaming, it is. I guess this is not. This is kind of a problem that's becoming more apparent as people are sharing their beliefs more.
Mm-hmm.
Because like 30 years ago, you don't. Your boy Berg isn't out there saying like horribly racist things or anything, and he's not publishing in his newspapers or newsletters to all of his fans in the 80s saying, like, oh, I hate people or whatever. Not that he did that. I'm saying him as an example because he's the one designer who's active at the time that I can think of.
Which is
But like Richard Berg.
Oh,
That's who I was just using as an example.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not like things are different now because game designers can say these things and we can see them, and like it's a small community and we should be keen on supporting people who make good games, but we also need to be keen on supporting people who deserve to have their voices in the community, because as much as Lock and Load is like a unpolitical game, I would say that isn't necessarily going to always be the case, because as the developer or publisher in this case, I guess, as the publisher makes other games, they could make something that is bad, like has harmful parts in it.
Right.
And that's kind of a thing that you need to think about when looking at things like this, is like, if there is a company that has values that go against your own and you're going to support them, you have to think about the fact that they might continue to do so in harmful ways. Because if there's anything that we've learned from the last 4 years, is that rhetoric matters. It matters so much. And it's something that you have to think about, because a lot of your loved ones, people you know, are going to be affected by rhetoric. Like in a recent example, just like look at what 4 years of people saying, like, not 4 years, excuse me, but like a year of people saying like the China virus has done. And like just like 2 weeks ago, it was last week, I think, there's starting to be a lot of anti-Asian hate crimes because of that rhetoric. There's nothing else. It's just rhetoric, but that's what happens.
Yes.
And even though that's on a bigger scale, this also happens on a small scale. And like, when you support something that says, like, that has these kind of things, the people who fit into that box will see it and they will know. Like, if you're going out here on Twitter and saying like, I love JK Rowling, there might be trans people in your life you don't know are trans that will see that and they will know. Or they'll like, this has effects.
Yeah.
These things have effects, and it's important to remember that none of this exists in a vacuum. Like, you can play this game and have a great time with it, but at the end of the day, your money might end up going to support something that will hurt people if they are having very bad ideas.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying that Lock and Load necessarily has like, they're not like, Lock and Load is not the end all be all worst thing ever.
No,
this
they're
is
the
just
one
kind of
we're picking on today.
This is just kind of a shitty thing that we don't like very much.
But you're right. Words have meaning, actions have consequences, and people need to be aware of that. And I think that the idea that we can separate words having meaning and actions having consequences from our hobbies because it's nicer that way isn't the best way to do it, right? Like, we have to do our due diligence in our hobbies to make them the hobby spaces we want them to be, right? We want to make the world a better place in the small way we can in the wider wargaming community. I mean, it's just what we can do, right?
Yeah.
But also, because I just Googled it and I want to know that this is funny, I typed in Richard Berg and Richard Berg, a lightning rod for controversy. So we got some digging to do.
Oh. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Good choice.
I guess one last thing that we should probably address before we kind of like wrap things up here is maybe think about how this applies to games with bad communities.
Right.
Such as Wargame.
Yes, because
the Wargame, not Wargame in general.
No. Wargame, Red Dragon, Land, Air, Sea, whatever it's called.
Red Dragon, baby. That's what it's all about today.
Yeah, I've been playing it actually. With some of my friends who've been trying to hold my hand and take my first baby steps into that monstrous world of learning 800 cards.
Oh, you haven't played it before?
No, I had never played it, and now I have seen what this world is. It'll be a great one for our 3rd, 4th episode from now when we talk about Intel. Spoilers.
Oh yeah, we're doing an episode on it. Well, I guess we are revealing our card early.
Oh no,
no.
We're giving you good intel on what's coming next.
Ha ha ha!
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm full of them today, aren't I? But yeah, so I mean, right. I'm enjoying that game. The community's trash for the most part.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So we talked about this just a smidgen in one of our other episodes. I don't remember which one.
I think it was the Clean Wehrmacht one.
It might have been the Clean Wehrmacht one. I think that might have been the case. But basically, when you load into Wargame Red Dragon, the first thing you see in like the main menu is that there is a global chat in Wargame Red Dragon. And this is a phenomenon that seems to exist with like military games, military history games, light war games kind of thing. Because it seems to be accessible. Like this and Hearts of Iron 4 seem to be like victims of it. Other games like Mountain Blade Warband seem to have this kind of mentality, but like you go in there and you will just see the N-word so much. There's just like so much of it. And they're just like, the global chat is just so bad. You will just see so many slurs, so many
you want to know the first thing I saw?
Anti everything, yeah.
First thing I saw when I loaded that up, and I can say it thankfully because it was just, I'll paint a word picture. It was multicolored, Russian flag, Daddy Putin save me, and then swastikas.
Ah,
And I thought, oh, that's the kind of community we're getting into.
yeah, that's it. That's
That's
it,
what we're here.
baby.
That's what this is.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that like, we end up seeing. That's why we even like kind of talked about this sort of thing in the first place, is because it just sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing there, is that in addition to, I guess this might be a better topic for like another full episode later on, but get to thinking about this one. Here's a little brain teaser for you, is that the wargame community is toxic as hell. And the developers haven't really moderated this out. This game's been out for like 6-7 years now, I think. Red Dragon has. It's been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just how it's always been, and they don't moderate it out. It's crazy to see, because they've just like let it exist like this, especially considering all of the recent movements of like, oh, perhaps you should monitor your communities a little bit because there's Nazis in there. Like that, they haven't done that, and that's weird to see.
Yeah, I'm hoping they step up with the fact that they were talking about how they like lost a lot of
Yeah.
their control over stuff but now they got Epic, so they're on Epic, so they have control again, and they do that new DLC they're doing. So maybe they'll
Oh
step
yeah.
up.
Well, let's talk about that for a
Oh,
second.
sure,
The new
right.
DLC. The new DLC. So Wargame Red Dragon is like, so it's hypothetical Cold War gone hot, saying the drill, and so they've added a bunch of different countries for both Blue 4 and Red 4. You got your US's, your Scandinavian nations, Great Britain, France, West Germany, etc. Red 4's got USSR, Poland, Czechoslovakia. I
China.
think Vietnam is in there. China, yeah. Like
North Korea.
all these various countries are in there, and they've added some interesting ones. Like Israel for Blue 4 was kind of a weird choice, but it's like, sure, whatever. But the next one they're adding, after like 3 years of DLC silence, is South Africa for Blue 4.
Mm-hmm.
And well, notably, I want to point out, South Africa at the time was an apartheid state. They're an apartheid state. Just want to say that one more time for emphasis. They're an apartheid state that they're adding in this game that has an incredibly racist community.
Yeah, like that's the part that gets me. Like I wouldn't care if it was just Cold War game and that was just what they did. Like you're adding in states all over the place, and sure you do South Africa because I mean they were active fighting in Angola, right? Like there's some history that you can dig into there. But to like cut the silence on 8 years of turbo racism with here's South Africa, that seems like a not the at the very like at the best it's a tone deaf move.
They might have well added Rhodesia at that point,
I mean, it seems it's like suspiciously tone deaf. Like they have to be aware of the vocal community that is present. That it's like thousands of people on that chat, right?
Yeah.
Or thousands of people who are
I mean,
playing.
it's been a pretty active game this whole time. There's no way that they don't know.
And it's killing me that I mean, I guess they have different different TONEs and different units, and they've got like Angolan Civil War losers who came over, and then so they have this like strange command structure. So like that's interesting.
I would have much rather seen the opposite sides in the Angola conflict represented than the South Africa.
Yeah,
To be honest, that would be more interesting.
It's just so suspect, the timing of this. Like here's your big fat racist game community, sadly, and here's something that won't at all stoke the fires of that community. Like it could have been anything else.
I mean, there are people who bought Israel and play against them specifically so they can kill Jews. So, like,
Yeah,
it's not going to be good.
That's what it bugs me. Like, it had it been a different context of a different game or a different community, I probably wouldn't bat an eye because, like, sure, yeah, add everybody. You're just working your way through, fine. But because of the context of like how horrendous that vocal community is, and like, here's some new toys, everybody. Like, oh god, right? It's that's not cool. I don't think that's cool.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty okay with a lot of shit if it's historical, because I like to think that games are a way to explore history, but this is suspect, and I'm not okay with this because of the timing.
It does kind of seem like they're pandering to their community a bit. But I don't know what's going on there. Their development teams and PR teams are probably two separate things, but their PR team is probably an empty office.
Yeah, they've got time to fix this, and I hope they step up and do, because they're just getting their stuff back together, right? Like I can give them a bit of time to come down with the hammer on the weird ass community. But if they don't, if they take the chivalry approach and see what weird shit the community's into and then just run with it to the exclusion of other people, then that's not cool. But they've still got time to correct this if they're getting their house in order, as it were. I hope they do. How about that? Because they haven't said
Alas.
anything that I know of as a studio that's bad yet.
I don't know. I guess it is a thing because like Wargaming studios are smaller, so if you're not actively looking for things that they're saying, you might miss it.
Yeah, that's why I want them to come out and fix this. I want them to do something, like be active.
So yeah, over at Eugen, if you're looking for a moderator, what's up, baby? I'm ready to go. I will swing that band hammer like a president on a golf course. I will go ham. Just let me at him.
Beatings will continue until ethics improve.
Until racism stops.
Wow, so we touched on some heavy shit today, didn't we?
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. It's fine. I got to talk poorly about J.K. Rowling for a little bit, and that always makes me happy. Especially because now I'm recorded doing it, so this is saved for posterity. Because I really can't emphasize this enough. I have a lot of trans people I care very much about, and I very much don't like J.K. Rowling. Fuck her. That is my message. My last message to the world.
Yep.
Fuck J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, well, hopefully we got everyone to think introspectively about their hobbying. That's the final message, I suppose. Not to be a downer or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Just have a good time and don't give bad people your money.
Yeah. Be mindful with how you're spending, but enjoy yourself. Or don't. I mean, whatever. Do what you're gonna do.
Hate yourself if you want. I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
Yeah,
but try to have a good time. It's a pandemic.
Go buy 10 copies of Lock and Load to spite me. I can take it. Don't do that.
I will dislike you if you do that. I'm just gonna say that. Anyway, I think we should tie this one off. Go wrap this up in a bow. Because we are going to be recording another podcast tomorrow. We want to make sure that we save our podcasting juices for that session. That's going to be fun. So I guess first message to you all as a matter of housekeeping is expect more from us shortly, because we're trying to do a bold new approach of recording multiple episodes in short succession. So to hopefully get more out to you all quicker, looking at maybe a 3-week turnaround on episodes, hopefully.
That would be nice, yeah.
We'll see. We're busy people. We have busy lives. April is going to be a busy month. I'm getting married in 2 weeks.
Woohoo!
So not even 2 weeks. I'm getting married in a week and a half. So I'm going to be a little bit busy in the month of April, but we're going to try to get episodes out to y'all.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be exciting. It is going to be us going to the courthouse, getting some documents, driving to a wedding officiant's house, having them marry just us, and then we are driving to the woods where we're going to spend the weekend in a cabin.
I mean, honestly,
that's just how the pandemic
nice.
be. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very nice. We're gonna have an actual ceremony next year, but
when the
pandemic is but
yeah. I mean, along with that, though, we're gonna try and get more content out on the blog. Hopefully, everyone's enjoying that. Maybe try and do more videos. I mean, we got some ideas for more YouTubing stuff. It's just hard to find time.
I have an idea, but well, I mean, about this one. It is the Iran stuff.
Yes, we found
yes.
Because of how much you've all liked 7554 Glorious Memories Revived, we've just went looking for more games made by
foreign entities.
Yes, non-Western companies to see what kind of perspective they put on their conflicts that they're addressing. So
and folks, there are some interesting things out there.
Oh, yes.
So expect that later in April, May perhaps. April's going to be, I'm going to be honest, April's a busy month for Jack.
Maybe I'll just start doing a War in the East Let's Play. I'll just let that carry on for
War in the East Let's Play. Every stream is going to be one turn. So you got your 2 hours on the first turn there. I would actually love to see that, just so I can better understand how to play the game.
Yeah,
because at least I'll be able to talk to you about it, because I've tried to watch Let's Plays of it on YouTube, and I'm I don't know what's going on,
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Maybe I would do a video where I it'll be slow, but go through what I'm doing at every stage so everyone knows the decisions I'm making and why, because I think it's a good game. I do think it's a good game, and I do think it's more accessible than it looks, because 95% of the information it gives at you can't do anything with, and it doesn't matter. So it's just Like, do you need to know the name of that pile that died during a recon mission last week? No, but you can find it. Do you need to know that that factory is pumping out T-34 chassis? No, you can't affect it anyway. If it gets bombed or captured or something, then sure. But like, you can't up the production or requisition more tanks. It's just there. So like, you can just
I suppose there's a lot of information that would matter to really hardcore players, is what it sounds like.
but I'm playing it fine without that information. Like, it's there to go look up, but the core, once you understand how the core combat systems work and how the core logistics systems work and the rail system and the air system, then you're good. So it's still a lot, but I mean, maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll play a bit of a short campaign or something.
Hell yeah, I would be super down to watch that, and that's cool. Other pieces of news, I guess. I don't know. Follow us on Twitter. We didn't plug that last time.
No.
I'm Jack_Trumbull. Joe is Joe Fonseca Hist. That is JoeFonsecasec. Excuse me. Sorry, fucked it up. JoeFonsecahist.
Yes, that's me.
And I should probably spell my own name because people always get it wrong. It's Jack JACK_Trumbull TRUMBULL. I have to say it like that because people will get it wrong otherwise. You have no idea how many times I've seen it misspelled, whatever. When I was actually on Landslide by Donkeys, by the way, I'm going to give Joe Kasabian a little bit of an L on this one, so bear with me on this one. When I was on Landslide by Donkeys, he plugged us, and that was great. And he said, "Oh yeah, and Jack Trumbull is on." I'm like, "Damn it, Joe!" But he fixed it after I complained at him. So, and that is why I will no longer be on Landslide by Donkeys.
It was a short, flew too close to the sun moment, eh?
I flew too close to the sun. Much like Icarus, I corrected the sun on how to say my name, and I crashed into the sea.
Speaking of crashing, come join us on Discord too.
Oh, yeah. We'll post a Discord link on wherever you find
this. We talk about board games and miniature games, and people are showing off their cool painting, and it looks great, and I'm jealous.
Yeah. Come show your 40k minis or talk about things coming up. We've been doing a bit of discussion about things in the server recently that are probably going to be future episode content. So if you want to get involved in that conversation, like, that's where to do it.
Yep.
Or if you want to go in and say like, I love lock and load, then like, I guess you could.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'll talk to people if they want to talk to me about this. Like, I'm not going to sit there cross arms and say no. Like, I'll talk to you about it if you feel strongly about it.
Yeah, our stance on things is all like we're cool with like people coming in and disagreeing with us or having conversations or whatever, but like, don't be a bigot. The whole thing is don't be a bigot, don't be an asshole. That is the limit of it.
Yeah, basically.
So if you have thoughts on things and you're like, I disagree with these guys, then pop into our Discord and tell us that. Or if you agree with us, then pop into our Discord and also tell us that. Boost the server, why don't you?
Oh yes, and one final parting word just in case. At no point do we ever advocate for the killing of authors. Okay?
Well, Hitler.
You always have to find one, don't you?
All right. Yeah, okay. Well, that's I think that's a good spot to stop. Thanks everyone for tuning in. You all have yourselves a great, safe pandemic. Hopefully you get your shot soon. And good night.
See you next time.
Good luck. Godspeed. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.